This latest chapter of One Punch Man is absolutely insane. It completely blew my freaking mind, especially the end of this chapter, because we not only get the continuation of Blast versus Empty Void, we also get a massive twist at the very end that might mean curtains for the heroes, or at least one particular hero, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Honestly, this is one of the first chapters in a very long time where I feel like I genuinely don't know what's gonna happen next. Like, I haven't felt this way since Cosmic Fear Garo first made an appearance. Murata and One are absolutely cooking with this chapter, so let's just dive right into it and not waste any more time. So as a very quick recap from the previous chapter in case you forgot, we got the initiation of Blast vs Empty Void. It was a pretty quick skirmish since the chapter itself was also pretty short, but one thing that was undeniable throughout that entire chapter is that it was a completely one-sided battle. Like, Blast completely took down Empty Void, or at least seemingly did, and seemed to have an answer for everything that Empty Void threw at him. He even said himself that he'd been waiting 15 years for this moment and learned of ways to restrain Empty Void while preventing him from using his hand signs, which allows him to escape to a different dimension, where we saw that he was able to do the dimensional slash. We also found out that Blast power was actually the opposite of whatever Empty Void has, or whatever God bestows on his disciples or his avatars. Ironically, God's power seems to be the power of light, and Blast power seems to be the power of darkness, even though they would seem to be vice versa, you know, seeing as how Blast is the good guy, right? Well, at the end of that chapter, we actually saw that Empty Void was able to absorb and nullify Blast power, and he escapes to another dimension and delivers a massive dimension slash immediately afterwards, and that's where the chapter ends. So thankfully we don't cut to anywhere else in this chapter, even though almost as always we get a chapter cover that has nothing to do with the chapter itself. This time we're going back to the basics for Murata, and it's going to be a chapter cover of Tatsumaki. But like I said, the chapter picks up immediately from the previous one, with Blast carrying Flashy Flash and Sonic as the dimension slash strikes. Sonic sees this and wonders if it's Genjutsu, but Flashy Flash says no, the village was just an experimental ground for creating monsters like this. And at the same time, Blast is kind of thinking to himself, has he completely healed? Is that why he can do this? But then he thinks to himself like, no, wait. But before he can finish that thought, he ends up being kicked by Empty Void. And Empty Void almost completes his thought by saying, yeah, you've guessed it. And as this is happening, his original face starts to crumble away to show a more humanoid face with a cosmic look to it. Not gonna lie, this shot of Empty Void is so freaking awesome. It looks so clean, so crisp. And honestly, I prefer it much more to the original version of him, even with the updates it was given. Sure, it was a cool looking monster face, but you honestly can't beat this. This guy looks like a straight up Dragon Ball Z character or something. He looks so freaking cool. But what's really interesting is that he goes on to explain exactly how he can counter Blast powers now, and why he seemed a little bit weaker at the very beginning of this fight. He goes on to explain, I had a feeling something was off ever since I absorbed that avatar's power. This referring back to when he absorbed Cosmic Fear Garo's power. So he continues and says, it seems like he was a failed creation, granted power by God while secretly holding a dark nature that defies it. What a perverse bastard. So essentially what he's saying is that this man Garo was built different, and he somehow accepted God's power but also resisted it at the same time. And that was pretty clear to us during his fight with Saitama, because it seemed like Garo was still kind of maintaining his own personality. Although it did seem like he was influenced by God, it did still very much seem like Garo was doing his own thing. But what's really important about this fact is that a result of this corruption of power that Empty Void now absorbed made it to where that Blast power of darkness no longer worked on him. And on top of that, he's apparently also remembered his rage towards Blast. But what's interesting about this is that he also mentions that God's will made him forget about it. So essentially becoming one of God's disciples made him completely forget his humanity, completely leave it behind, and also with that leave his grudges and past relationships. But now that he's somehow regained a part of his human side through consuming Garo's power, he's now more fueled by rage and emotion. And why he's so angry at Blast, we obviously haven't gotten information about that yet, but honestly I'm very curious to know, because of course before he became one of God's disciples, Empty Void was Blast's partner and apparently one of his very close friends. So something crazy had to happen for him to just straight up hate him and join God's side. Whether that having been God using one of his illusions to trick Empty Void, maybe him taking the form of Blast and killing someone close to him, making him believe that it was Blast that did it, or maybe Blast has done some shady stuff in the past himself that made Empty Void turn against him. If you guys have read the webcomic, there is a connection that Blast has to the Ninja Village that still hasn't been directly explored here, and I think you guys might know what I mean. I don't want to spoil it here in case many of you are just manga readers, but this other connection or other occurrence that hasn't been explored yet or detailed might paint Blast in a bad light and also be the reason why Empty Void turned against him. Let me know in the comments below if you know what I mean. But anyway, seeing this, Blast takes off his glasses and throws them back to Flashy Flash for him to hold on to, which I thought was a pretty cool move. And he instantly goes in right for a kick to Empty Void, and round 2 of the fight begins. And just before we get to this amazing altercation and the very shocking end of this chapter, I do want to quickly mention that on November 20th, so about 7 days from now, I will be dropping my first official merch line. I'm actually wearing one of the t-shirts right now. I'm very excited to show you guys the back of it, but I really can't right now because it's a surprise. Just trust me though that the designs had a lot of work and thought put into them, and particularly with this design on this shirt that's on the back of it, I think you guys are going to be really excited for it and will enjoy it as much as I did. We're also going to have like hoodies and stuff too. You can see right here the front of the hoodie. It says anime drop on it. That's going to be the name of it. And I can't show you the back of this one either because it has another design that I'm also very excited about. But at least you can see this, you know. Oh, well, this side. This is the new logo for the channel, so you guys have probably already seen this. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Anyway, so after Blast throws a kick, Empty Void quickly responds with a spiraling wind blade, to which Blast teleports away and dodges, and uses one of his portals to send one of his punches directly to Empty Void's face. He continues delivering blows as he says, "Don't underestimate me just because you've dealt with my Dimension Cannon and Gravity Knuckle." Then he just delivers this non-stop barrage of blows through various portals. Like, once we get to the anime version of this scene in like 2035 or 2040, I'm going to be very excited to see how they do it because it's going to look super awesome. He ends the combo with a powerful knee kick to his back, and then Blast thinks to himself as he charges up another portal to punch through that if he escapes to a different dimension he won't be able to track him, so he can't give him that chance. But as Blast summons a portal right behind Empty Void shocks him and honestly everybody when he turns his limbs completely towards the back of his body, so everything is backwards pretty much. And as the massive shock of the chapter, he actually manages to slice off one of Blast's arms. He's shocked to see it, Flashy Flash and Sonic are shocked to see it, honestly my jaw dropped when I saw it, and the arm falls to the ground. As Blast drops to one knee, Empty Void approaches him and says, "You can't teleport without putting your fists together, can you? Your desperate tactic of using a boring magic trick to target my blind spot is disappointing. You can't dodge the Dimension Slash anymore. Watch as cities around the world, along with their citizens, get shredded while you just stand there and do nothing." So in response to this very menacing threat, Blast says, "You're still bad at lying. Your eyes are shifty. If you were the same person I fought 15 years ago, you would have immediately cut off my head. But now that you absorbed Garo's factor, God's brainwashing is starting to wear off." And this is a very interesting and I think important detail that gets brought up because I do think this is what's going to bring back Empty Void, kind of bring him back to the good side or keep him from killing Blast, because right now it seems like Empty Void is about to finish him off. But in response to this, he delivers a barrage of slashes all over Blast's body, and with that it appears that Blast might be like actually toast, because these are some heavy slashes. After seeing this panel, I like genuinely got up out of my seat and like started pacing back and forth, wondering like what the hell is going to happen next. Again, like I said at the top of this chapter, this is the first time since I think Cosmic Fear Garo first made an appearance that I genuinely felt like I just do not know what's going to happen going forward. Like, I have no clue what's going to happen in the next chapter. Like, is Saitama going to show up and save the day? Is Blast going to, like, straight up die? Is Empty Void going to spare Blast because he came back to the good side? Or are Flashy Flash and Sonic going to do something to buy some time? So many different questions to answer here, and I'm going to try speculating on all these questions in a different video, which is going to drop probably later this week or next week. But until then, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because I'm very curious to know what you think about this chapter. I absolutely loved it, even though it's only like 14-15 pages. Who cares? Honestly, as long as we're getting this kind of quality, who the hell cares, right? That is going to do it for this one though. Have an absolutely wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, whatever, and I'll see you guys in the next video.